right? So yesterday we have started the part B of the unit 2, that was the diuretics, right? I am audible and the slide are visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So we have talked about the diuretics, and previous to that class, what we have discussed, we have discussed about the vasodilators, right? So what is the purpose of using both the vasodilator and the diuretics, right? Is to reduce the hypertension or to reduce the blood pressure, right? So that is the one of the important thing, right? So earlier we were talking about the vasodilator, and in yesterday class we have discussed about the diuretics, right? So how these diuretics are acting to reduce the blood pressure, right? So सबसे पहली चीज क्या होगी, where they act, right? So all the diuretic will act on the kidney, right? They will be acting on the kidney, and the diuretic means to force out the urine, means they will be forcing the urine out, or they will be throwing the excess of water out from the body, right, via urine, right? So we have discussed one important figure yesterday, right? So this was one important figure, right? So what we have talked whenever there is a drop in the blood pressure, what happens? The renin is released from the kidney, right? The renin is released from the kidney, and then what it do? It converts the angiotensinogen, right, which is released from the liver to the angiotensin 1, right? Then the lungs play its role, and the angiotensin converting enzyme, or the ACE, right, converts what? Converts this angiotensin to angiotensin 2, right? Now this angiotensin 2 has some various properties, right? This angiotensin 2 do what? It does the vasoconstriction, right? And if there is a vasoconstriction, there will be an increase in blood pressure, right? The second thing what it is doing, it is increasing the thirst, right? It is increasing the thirst, right? So when it will be increasing the thirst, what will happen? We'll be drinking a lot amount of water, right? And secondly, what it is doing, it is let me open the pointer, right? Secondly, what it is doing, it is releasing another hormone called the antidiuretic hormone. So the role of antidiuretic hormone is to prevent the urine flow out from the bladder. Basically, it is retaining the water inside the body, right? So basically, this antidiuretic hormone will retain the water concentration inside the body. So what will happen? See, firstly, we are getting thirsty, right? We are drinking a lot amount of water. Secondly, the ADH hormone is releasing, right? And it is not allowing the passage of water out through the urine, right? So होगा क्या? Our body will retain more and more amount of water, right? So this was the another thing. The third thing was it affects the adrenal cortex, and from the adrenal cortex there is one important hormone that is released called the aldosterone, right? So what is the role of the aldosterone? Aldosterone actually retains the salt and water, right? So basically this hormone, this aldosterone, is able to retain the salt and the water. The salt, basically, what is the salt basically which we are intaking? It is basically the NaCl, sodium chloride. So what it will be retaining? It will be retaining two important electrolytes, the sodium and the chlorine, right? So this is the thing. So all this will elevate the blood pressure, right? So if there is an overexpression of renin or there is a problem in the kidney, we will be experiencing some high blood pressure, or that can also lead to the hypertension, right? So now basically when we talk about the diuretic, they will be acting on this kidney, right? They will be acting on the kidney, and they will be indirectly causing the vasodilation, right? So today we'll be discussing about this thing. So this thing I hope is very clear, right? So this we have discussed yesterday. So we have discussed when the kidney become non-functional or damaged, what will happen, right? So that will lead to the elevation in the blood pressure, which could also lead to the hypertension and the edema. Edema means the water retention in the bladder or in the body, right? So that could lead to the cell burst because of the high osmolarity, osmosis, right? So this is the thing, right? This we have discussed. So now, before going to the drugs, what I expect from you, that just remember these few points. If you are remembering these few points, you can easily do this unit on the diuretics, right? So basically diuretics induces the water loss in the form of urine. So see, सबसे important बात यह है कि जितने भी हम diuretics लेंगे, ड्रग्स की बात करेंगे, जो हमने 5 कैटेगरीज कल डिस्कस की थी, right? What they will do, they will induce the water loss, right? In the form of what? In the form of urine, right? कैसे करेंगे? Basically they will be inhibiting the reabsorption of water and two important ions, right? Yesterday what we have discussed about the nephron, right? Nephron is the functional unit of the kidney, right? So nephron में क्या important part थे? There was a glomerulus, right? So glomerulus was doing what? Glomerulus was filtering, right? So there was the three processes. One was the filtration, right? Second was the reabsorption, and third was the secretion, right? So basically there were three steps, right? So now how the diuretic will work? Diuretic will inhibit the reabsorption of water. If the reabsorption of water is inhibited, what will happen? More and more amount will pass throughout from the urine, right? And there will be high urge to pee, right? And two important ions. So two important ions will be the salt, sodium and the chloride, right? So that is why it is recommended that we should not take the salt in high quantities. So when we are taking the salt in the high quantities, what is happening in the body? It is actually retaining more and more amount of water. And when there is a high amount of water retained in the body, that will cause the high blood pressure or the hypertension, right? So this is why the salt intake is recommended to be very low, right? So this is the thing, and even the salt is prescribed when there is a cases of low blood pressure, right? This is because of this reason, right? So this thing you must remember, right? So what we have to do in the diuretics, we have to inhibit the reabsorption of water and inhibit the reabsorption of two ions called the sodium and the chloride, basically the salt NaCl, right? So now I'll be starting with the drugs today, right? So the diuretics, right? The word diuretics means the water pills. Why they are called the water pills? Because they are increasing the frequency of urination, right? Basically, they are expelling the water out from the body, right? So that's why they are called the water pills. And they are mostly prescribed for the high blood pressure or for the cases of the edema during the kidney failure, right? So these are the two purposes where this drug are used. So a diuretic is any substance that promote the diuresis, right? Diuresis means excretion of urine, right? That is the increased production of urine. This includes forced diuresis. Forced diuresis means maximal urge to pee, right? A diuretic tablet is sometimes collectively called a water tablet. It is called the water tablet because it is allowing the production of urine, or it is expelling the high content of water in the form of urine out from the body, right? So this is the thing. So now this is a very simple figure, right, about the diuretics. So basically the diuretics will act where? They will be acting in the kidney, right? What will be the kind of action? They will be forcing the renal excretion, right? What they will be doing? They will be allowing a forced excretion of the renal supplements or the renal waste which is in the kidney, right? So basically in the form of urine, right? So what will be the effect? What will be the effect of the diuretic are acting in the body? They will be causing a water loss, and the secondly they will be causing the loss of minerals, right? Important one will be the sodium and the chloride, right? So this is the important thing. Right. So now yesterday we have talked about different classes of diuretics in your syllabus, right? So basically this is the nephron structure, right? So this is the nephron. What we have a glomerulus, we have a proximal convoluted tubule, right? We have a loop of Henle, right? Then we have a collecting duct, right? Distal convoluted tubule. So basically these diuretics will act at different part, right? For example, the first one are the carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, right? So what they are doing, they are inhibiting the, see, whenever the things will go out from this renal, right, they will be not collected in the urine. So what we have to do, we have to force the waste, into this nephron, right? Into this nephron, then only the thing will go to this loop of nephron and then will be finally excreted in the form of urine, right? So the first is the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, right? The carbonic anhydrase inhibitor will be acting at the proximal convoluted tubules, right? Then we have some loop diuretics, as the name suggests what they will do. They will be acting on the loops, right? And now we have some thiazides, so they will be acting on the distal convoluted tubules, right? Then we have some potassium sparing diuretics, right? They will be acting at the collecting duct, right? So these are the things. Now, see, if you look at this figure more closely, there are some pumps. There are some pumps. See, two pumps are there. This is the sodium chloride pump and this is the sodium potassium pump, right? Are you able to see the arrows? These both are going into the same direction and this are going into the opposite direction. So can anybody tell what it means? Anyone? फार्माकोलॉजी में अगर किसी ने पढ़ा हो. See, basically when we have a pump that has the same directional arrow, unidirectional, right? So they are called the symporters, right? Symporters. They are called the symporters, right? And when we have an exchange, so basically this is coming here and this is going here. So this is an exchange of ions is happening, right? In this case, both the ions are going in the same direction, right? No exchange is happening. But in this case, the exchange is happening, right? So these are called the antiporters, right? Antiporters, right? So you must remember, because you might be facing these type of words in the mechanism of action, right? The word would be like the symporters, like the antiporters. So you should know what you mean by the symporters, what you mean by the antiporters, right? So I'll be now discussing about these categories of the drugs, right? So first are the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, right? So when I talk about the carbonic anhydrase is an enzyme, right? So basically in your syllabus there are three drugs: acetazolamide, methazolamide, and dichlorphenamide. Right? These are the three drugs that are in your syllabus, right? So basically what this carbonic anhydrase is doing is this thing. What is happening? This carbonic anhydrase is a zinc containing enzyme that catalyzes the reversible hydration of carbon dioxide. So what it is doing? It is doing the hydration of this carbon dioxide, right? So this enzyme is coming at this side, right? What it is doing, it is catalyzing this reaction. It is adding the water to the carbon dioxide to form the carbonic acid, right? And when this carbonic acid will dissociate, what it will do, it will form the hydrogen ion or the hydronium ions along with the bicarbonate ions, right? So this is the important reaction that is occurring in the kidney, and how it is helping, I'll be just showing it with the help of figure, right? So basically what we have a lumen, right? And we have a nephron. This is called a proximal tubule and this is the blood, right? What we want to do when we are using the diuretics, we want to inhibit the reabsorption of the ions or the water in the lumen area, right, or into the blood area. This is our foremost task. We have to inhibit the absorption at the lumen site and at the blood side, right? So what we have to do, we have to make all the waste or the water absorption toward this tubule or the nephron, right? So now what is happening in nephron? What is happening, right? See, the carbon dioxide is coming in, right? The carbon dioxide is combining with the water, right? So as a diuretic, what we want to expel this water out from the body, right? But what is happening in the nephron? This carbon dioxide, which is coming, right? It is interacting or it is reacting with the water molecule to form the carbonic acid, right? So this is the carbonic acid. So how the carbonic acid is forming? It is forming by the influence of an enzyme called the carbonic anhydrase. So what it is doing, it is facilitating the reaction of this carbon dioxide with the water to form the carbonic acid. Now, this carbonic acid, right? So we all know that the acid and the base are highly dissociable, right? They can dissociate. The salt can easily dissociate. So basically, this will dissociate into the bicarbonate ion and the hydronium ion. And when it will be dissociating, right? When it will be dissociating into the ions, what will happen? These ions will reabsorb, right? These ions will reabsorb back into the lumen, right? Means what they will do, see the hydronium ion is going, so they will be increasing the acidosis. They will be increasing the acidosis, and this bicarbonate ion can go to the blood, right? So what is happening, this hydronium ion will basically do what? It will increase the acidity, right? So it will be released to the lumen, and this carbonate ion, right, what it will do, it will be released in the blood, increasing the basicity of the blood, right? Now this bicarbonate will again, after some time, when it has been circulated, when the blood has been circulated or pumped by the heart, what it will do, it will again come back to the lumen and will combine again with this what we call the hydronium ion, right, to again form the carbonate, bicarbonic acid, and this carbonic acid will again be dissociated by this carbonic anhydrase. So what the carbonic anhydrase is doing, it is doing two things. It is doing two reactions, right? One, it is combining the carbon dioxide and the water, right, to form this carbonic acid. And secondly, what it is doing, it is dissociating this formed carbonic acid, right, to release what? To release the water and the carbon dioxide, right? So what will happen if we inhibit this carbonic anhydrase? What will happen? See, two important things will happen. First, when we will be inhibiting this carbonic anhydrase, this carbonic acid will not be formed. One of the important thing. And once this carbonic acid will not form, what will happen? No dissociation will occur and no reabsorption of ions will occur. Only there will be carbon dioxide and the water, right? And when there will be water, it will be expelled out, right? So this is the important thing, right? Oxide, right? So what it is doing, carbonic anhydrase is doing what? Carbonic acid anhydrase is forming the carbonic acid, and also it is involved in the dissociation, right? So basically carbonic acid dissociate to the this bicarbonate ion and the hydronium ion, which are transported out of the cell on the basolateral side by the different transporters, right? So bicarbonate absorption is therefore dependent upon the activity of the carbonic anhydrase, right? So the bicarbonate absorption, bicarbonate is absorbing where? Bicarbonate is absorbing to the blood, right? So if this enzyme is inhibited, this will retain in the carbonic, this will for this form only, this there will be a carbon dioxide and the water, and this water will be forced out, right, in the form of urine if we inhibit this enzyme, carbonic anhydrase, right? So this is the general mechanism, right? So slave, we have three drugs: acetazolamide, methazolamide, and the dichlorphenamide, right? So this is the thing. Right, so this is again a common thing. Bicarbonate absorption by the proximal tubule is again dependent on the activity of the carbonic anhydrase, right? So what we are doing, we are inhibiting the carbonic anhydrase, and this will result in an increased urinary loss of bicarbonates along with the water, right? So what will happen? This water will get lost, right, from the kidneys in the form of urine. So what we are doing, we are promoting the diuresis, right? So this is the mechanism. Now we move to the drugs, right? So basically these are the two drugs, acetazolamide and methazolamide. So if you look at the structure, azolamide, azolamide, right? So what do you mean by azolamide? If you know about the Hans-Millman nomenclature, this ring. And what is this thing? This is amide. Guys, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Right. So basically what we have acetazolamide and the methazolamide. Let me open the pointer. Right. So the differences, see, this is the azola moiety and this is amide. This is amide. See, amide is present both sides, right? So this is a sulfonamide moiety type, right? And what we have a difference? We have a difference of a methyl group at the end position, right? So this is a simple molecule, and here what we have? We have a difference of a methyl group, and hence the name is methazolamide, right? So this is the thing. So basically, these are the carbonic anhydrase inhibitor used to treat either the edema, right? Means the retention of water, or to treat the heart failure, right? Heart failure will occur when there will be a high blood pressure, which could lead to the hypertension, right? So this is the thing. So now these molecules, these chemical molecules belong to the organic chemistry class of thiadiazole. We have a thia, we have a sulfur, right? Thia group. Diazole. Diazole means this two nitrogen, and the zole OLE means it's a 5-membered ring, right? So if you remember the Hans-Willmann nomenclature, you can easily designate the name or the structure to this thing, right? So what we have a thia, dia, azole, diaza. Diaza means two nitrogen, right? And OLE means a 5-membered ring, right? So this is the thing, right? And what we have the sulfonamide. So this is the sulfonamide moiety, right? Now we have another category of the drug in this thing. Basically, this carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, which is called the dichlorphenamide, right? So again, you can just see the name dichlor. Dichlor means two chloro groups. Phenamide means a phenyl ring. Amide means a amide group, right? So basically, what we have, this compound belong to the class of organic compound known as benzene sulfonamides, right? What we have the benzene, right? We have the dichloro groups, and we have the sulfonamide. This is the sulfonamide group, right? Attached to two sulfur dioxide, right? So this is the sulfonamide, right? So these molecules will belong to the category of benzene sulfonamide, right? So again, they will be doing what? They will be inhibiting the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, right? And once the carbonic anhydrase enzyme will be inhibited, what will happen? The bicarbonate ion will not be able to get reabsorbed into the lumen or to the blood, right? And what will happen? What will happen? The carbon dioxide will not be able to combine with the water to form the carbonic acid, and hence the water will be expelled out, right? There will be a process of diuresis, right? So this is the thing. Now there is another category. There is another category of the diuretics called the thiazide diuretics, right? So what the thiazide diuretics do? They will again be performing the same action. They will be doing what? They will be used to control the hypertension by inhibiting the reabsorption of sodium and the chloride ions from the distal convoluted tubule. So see, what the diuretics are doing, they are doing the three things. They are inhibiting the reabsorption of water, right? And the two important ions, right? That is the sodium and the chloride, right? So again, what this will do, this thiazide diuretics will do, these will be controlling the hypertension by inhibiting the reabsorption, right? So what they will do, they will inhibit this reabsorption of sodium and the chloride ion in the DCT, distal convoluted tubule, right? So I'll be just showing you the mechanism, right? So this is the mechanism. What is happening? This is the sympater, and these two are the antipoters, right? This is in the unidirectional, right? So unidirectional pumps means they are the sympoters, right? So now basically these thiazide diuretics will act on this pump, will act on this sodium chloride sympater, right? So and it will inhibit this thing, it will inhibit this pump. So what will happen? happen if they will be inhibited this pump? What will happen? These sodium will be retained in the urine. These sodium will be retained in the urine and they will be not absorbed by the blood, right? And if there is a high retention of this sodium in the urine, what will happen? The water will also be not reabsorbed. And if water will not be reabsorbed, what will happen? There will be an process of diuresis, which is having what? Which will be having water and these sodium and the chloride ions, right? So this will going again to the collecting duct, right? So the thiazide, basically diuretics will be acting at this point, this DCT, distal convoluted tubule, right? So this is again a very simple mechanism, right? So to remember the mechanism, you have to remember only three things, right? We have to inhibit the reabsorption of water and two ions, that is the sodium and the chloride, right? So here what we are doing, we are inhibiting this pump, and by inhibiting this pump, what is happening? The sodium and the chloride are retained in the urine, right? So this is the thing. So in your syllabus, there are four drugs, right? Chlorothiazide, hydrochlorothiazide, hydroflumethiazide, and the cyclothiazide, right? But there is one important thing. Important thing is that do not get confused with this word thiazide, right? This thiazide may or may not be present in the chemical structure, right? But the thiazide diuretics is the class of the diuretics, right? In the most example, in the recent drug that are coming these days, you might not see the that pharmacophore of thiazide in the thiazide drugs, in the or in the thiazide diuretics, right? So this thiazide diuretics is a class. It do not belong to a particular chemical category, right? So remember this point. This is only an exception here, right? So now we have the four drugs, right? So basically these drugs are belonging to 1,2,4 benzothiazine 1,1 dioxide. So see how to just go to this name. What we have, the benzo, right? There is a fusion, right? There is a fusion with the thiadiazine. Why we are calling it a thiadiazine? See, thia is present, right? This is a sulfur group. Diazi, diazi means two nitrogens, one and the two, and zine, zine, the suffix. This zine means the six-membered ring, right? So again, we are going back to that Hans-Widman nomenclature. And if we just remember about that Hans-Widman nomenclature, what we can do, we can just nomenclate this molecules, right? So these are the fused molecule having the benzo group and the thiadiazine group, right? So this is the important thing, right? So now first molecule is the chlorothiazide. So what we have a chlorine group, right? And this is the amide. This is a sulfonamide, right? This one. If you look at the structure, we have a sulfoxide group and we have a NS2, right? So again, we have this thing common, right? What is the different? Hydrochlorothiazide. Hydro means removal of this double bond. Removal of this double bond. See, this only the difference is the removal of this double bond. And from the chlorothiazide, it has converted into the hydrochlorothiazide, right? Then what we have? Hydroflumethiazide, right? Hydro means there will be no double bond and flumi means CF3 group, right? So this is the CF3 group. So what we have here, we have a CF3 group, right? So this is the thing. Then what we have a cyclothiazide. So in the cyclothiazide, what we have, instead of this trifluoro, what we have a cycloalkene group. This is a cycloalkene, right? So what we have a cycloalkene. So these four molecules are in your syllabus and they all belong to a single category called the 1,2,4 benzothiadiazine 1,1 dioxide. So 1 and 1. So see the nomenclature. Sulfur is retaining these two. So basically the nomenclature will be here 1 and again chloro is here. So nomenclature will be again here at 1, right? So what we have 1,1 dioxides, right? So this is why the name is coming like this, right? So what it was doing, it was blocking the sodium chloride importer pump. And when it was blocking the sodium chloride importer pump, what was happening? It was increasing the excretion of sodium, right? It is increasing the excretion of sodium, and this is called the natriuresis, right? Excretion of urine is called the natriuresis, right? Just remember this term. This term may come somewhere in your future also, in the pharmacology also importantly, right? And the chloride in the approximately equivalent amount. Why it is removing both this thing in the equivalent amount? Because it is blocking a importer pump, right? The amount that of the sodium that will go inside will be equal to the amount of chloride that will be passing in, right? So if it is inhibiting this thing, if it is inhibiting this pump, what it will do, it will be excreting the sodium and the chloride along with promoting the water loss, right? So this is the thing. Then what we have the loop diuretics, right? So the loop diuretics we'll be discussing in the next class, right? So now if anybody have some doubts or any queries, they may ask. Anyone? Anyone, if they are having some doubts or anything. Anyone with any doubts? और अगर कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, they can also speak.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Karan.
Sir, angiotensin segment side release transfer.
I didn't hear you. What? Angiotensin 2 is what?
Sir, angiotensin second side release, sir.
Site release. See, angiotensin site, there is no site to release the angiotensin. Basically, the enzymes are releasing. See, from the kidney, we have renin, right? From the, then what we have? From the liver, we have the release of angiotensinogen, right? So what the thing is doing, the renin is converting the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. And from the lungs, we have angiotensin converting enzyme, right? That is acting on that substrate. Actually, the angiotensinogen, angiotensin 1 and the angiotensin 2 are the substrates, right? They will be acted upon by the enzymes, right? So there are the three enzymes. So two enzymes are there, right? One is the renin, and the second is the hypothalamus actually release the ADH, anti-diuretic hormone, right? That is actually retaining, that is allowing the retention of the water in the body, anti-diuretic hormone, right?
Okay.
So basically that hormone is also released when there are the condition when you don't drink enough of the water, right? So basically that time it forces out the very acidic urine, right? With the minimal water loss, right? So ADH hormone is doing that thing. And from the adrenal cortex, what we have from the adrenal cortex, we have the aldosterone, right? So that aldosterone is doing what? Aldosterone is allowing the retention of the sodium ions. And when the sodium ion will be retained, what will happen? It will also allow the retention of the water, right? So these are the things.
Okay.
So
thank you, sir.
any more doubts? Any more doubts or the queries? Anyone? So if there are no doubts or queries, what I'll be doing, I'll be uploading these things in the Moodle once I just finish this unit, right? The part B, part A has been already been uploaded in the Moodle. Also the recorded lecture has been placed there, right? So if anybody is having any doubts from there, they can just go to the lectures or go to that slides, right? And they can just point out their questions or anything like that, right? Queries or doubts, anything. Right, guys? So thank you very much for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.